panic then. I was like, oh my God. Right, okay. Are you ready, guys?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Shonky Lab. This is the episode where we're supposed to be talking about video stores or video. What do we call them over in England, Martin?
I was rental stores, I think.
Rental stores. Okay.
Yeah, rental stores.
And Axel, what do we call them over in the US of A?
Video stores.
Video stores. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Right. That's what we're gonna do. I have Martin here with me, and I have Axel over in America. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me for this. It's been a journey this evening already, hasn't it? Getting to this point.
It has. We've had a few hiccups along the way, but hopefully everything should be good now.
Yeah.
We made it. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, man. It's been like 6 years since I've done a podcast with you. The last podcast I did with you, Elton, is when you and Gareth came on, and I did the podcast before my son was born.
Oh, blimey. Is it 6 years now?
Yeah.
Whoa, man.
It's actually longer. My son will be 6 in September, and we did that podcast, I think, in August or July or August.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's coming on. Yeah, no, it's coming on 6 years. Yeah.
Well, funnily enough, we were just discussing that just before the show that Elton is celebrating 10 years in podcasting.
Yeah, very soon. I can't believe that.
I had my 10-year in April.
Did you? Oh, brilliant. What was you doing in the very beginning then?
Lost.
Ah, okay. Is that where it all started then, was it?
That's where it all started. I was listening to Jay and Jack and Ryan and Jen on the transmission. And I just said to my friend Aaron, let's do a podcast. And then my first podcast was actually interviewing those two on separate podcasts. And then we did Lost. That was like April of 2008. Oh, yeah, April 2008. Or 2007. Was it? Yeah, 2008.
So, okay, right, I'm trying to work out what season that would have been. What season would you have started on that then?
I guess it was...
I think, was it the 4th season?
Fourth,
Strike season, because...
It was 4.
Yeah. Wow, man. Oh, they were good days as well. They were really good days. I was getting used to all this podcasting malarkey, trying to get my head around it and listening to everyone else's do their show. And, yeah, man, still doing it 10 years later. That's crazy.
Awesome.
Don't feel like it though, does it? It doesn't feel like 10 years at all.
Well, I first did something in 2010. Yeah. I was on the Eclectic Podcast for a bit, so I've been doing it on and off, mainly off for about 8 years.
Blimey.
Roughly.
Oh, we should all join hands and maybe touch a little bit. Cup each other's balls gently. I don't know.
There you go.
Anyway, so yeah, we're here to talk about video rental stores, but there was one thing I did want to talk to you guys about first, and it is mainly to do with your president at the moment, Axel.
Oh, all right.
Now, you're getting a SpaceForce, aren't you?
That's what I hear. Yes, there is going to be a SpaceForce.
Oh man, that's so cool.
Yeah, well, if I didn't see it as an aggressive move into capitalizing on space, I might think it was kind of cool. Like if it was about, if this was more about the Kennedy type of Space Force of exploration and forwarding mankind and science is good for science, I would like it. But this administration, as I'm sure, I know all over the world, everybody just knows this guy's a moron. But in America, for some people, about 20% of the population, there's they love him. They love the bravado. I mean, the typical American thing, like I'm going to come in and I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want, whenever I want. I'm going to speak loud. Yeah. I'm going to force you to do things the way it's called, what I call it, right? I'm going to take the you out of all the words. So it's typically, it's not a good thing. I wish I could be happy about it because, like you, Elton, I'm a huge space fan, and I wish I could be super. Like I'd be thinking about how I could join SpaceForce, But
so you prefer it was more Star Trek rather than Starship Troopers?
Yeah, that is perfect. That I have never heard it put so perfectly. That is exactly what it is. I always say it's what's the name of the aliens company? Weyland Yutani or something like
Yutani.
Weyland Yutani, right. When he announced that, I tweeted out, we have all just witnessed the founding of Weyland Yutani. Because that's all it is. Look, this guy just is trying to capitalize off being president, making money, just throwing around his small wiener, and it's a bad scene here in America. But hopefully, the one thing is that it brings people together to see what's really important, And you all don't have it. Are they re-voting on Brexit or what? I keep on hearing about this.
No, they're trying to drum up support for it, but. No, they've not got anywhere near us yet as making a decision on that.
I don't want to revote. I'm all for staying. I don't want to Brexit. Or whatever. Still can't say that word, Brexit. It's just a word that I can't say. And I'm all for staying. But we made our bed, so now we have to lie in it. And the only way to get people that wanted to leave to understand is to let's go through this. Let's make it harder at airports and watch our money fall through the floor. But I don't think it's going to go back to another vote at all. I think that's like keeping your finger in the Choose Your Own Adventure book and just going back a couple of steps, isn't it? That's just not right.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that myself, Elton. That we've had the decision, we've made the choice. Although part of me would love to see a second referendum purely just to see what the result would be.
Yeah,
I would just be interested in what would happen, just to see what the result would be, whether some people would change, whether it would just remain roughly the same. But some men just want to watch the world burn, I guess.
Yeah, that's a dangerous bargain though, because that's why a lot of people kind of went with Trump or abstained from voting, because they felt that if they didn't buy into the ridiculous Pizzagate or all these weird QAnon things about Hillary Clinton being a secret pedophile who collects dogs in her purse or whatever the hell they come up with. I don't know what crazy stuff people have invented. The Clintons, like, when people don't like them, they invent the craziest stuff instead of just saying they're rich people. You know what I mean? Like, they're just rich people. But a lot of people did that, and look how we ended up, and a lot of people suffer because of it, and especially those who don't have the capability to care for themselves or whom society deems as lesser. That's the thing I worry about. I hope they don't Brexit, only because I would like to see at least there be some kind of, I'm just all for like stable governments at this point. Like, I'm worried about World War III breaking out,
Yeah.
I just want things.
We reviewed Godzilla, and that came from 1998. And at that point, all we were worried about was France testing nukes in the Pacific or the Atlantic. I can't remember exactly where it was, but that was kind of all we were really worried about. And that was 20 years ago. And now we're back to kind of square one, where someone sneezes or someone says the wrong word or someone leans on the wrong keyboard and it's all going to kick off. And that's where I feel it is. And with going back to the Space Force, I wonder why this has come around. I honestly really wonder. It could be he had a bad dream and then decided, oh shit, aliens are coming down. We need a Space Force to protect us. Or it could
He's
be
probably watching some movie. What movie do you think he was watching?
Yeah,
Probably
he fell asleep on the sofa.
He was probably watching Independence Day, where the president saves everybody.
That's it. That's his ambition. He wants to be the president in Independence Day.
Yeah, he wants to
ain't
be
getting
Bill.
a fighter jet, man. There's no way he's going to fit into a fighter jet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm worried about him building a dome around the world. But there was a couple of things, because in 1940, this is what it sounds like to me. In 1947, in around about June or July, we had a Roswell crash, and out in New Mexico, and that was the start of all these brand new hoaxes and conspiracy theories about aliens coming down here. In a couple of months later, in September 1947, the Air Force was born, or the United States Air Force, and the CIA as well. Could that be a coincidence? Just after the aliens apparently crashed, that the United States Air Force was started, and now he knows something else, and now he's creating SpaceForce because maybe he's ready to open up the doors and say, look, come into Area 51 and see the aliens.
I'll tell you, Elton, I have had nightmares. Before, when I used to be working at the public access TV stations, that's what my old job used to be. I used to run these public access. Do you have public? You have public well, you don't have public access in England, do you? In the UK, do you have like TV stations that are just for the town?
No.
Okay, that just go on the local cable of the town.
Well, we used to have for different counties, didn't we, in different TV areas on ITV, but never anything very local, I don't think. Not local.
This was something that was actually started in Canada in the 60s and 70s when video equipment became portable. They started public access stations. They basically said to the cable station, hey, if you're going to put cable in this town, you have to give the city some of the stations, some of the channels, and we can use them for public announcements, to broadcast like local board meetings and things of this nature, but also to give the opportunity for local people to broadcast what they want to broadcast, right? And also train them how to do it. And that's what I did for 10 years in North Carolina. Right. And at the time, this was before this election, I was constantly trying to, it never came through, but I was constantly trying to get different actors and people who came through the station. I wanted to make a fake documentary about aliens landing when Hillary Clinton was president, because I thought she's going to be the next president. So I had this whole script. I wrote it out, like all these different, we're going to interview, have this guy play a general and all that. Then Trump was elected, and I had a panic attack because I was like, could there be any worse possible time for aliens to come to Earth than when this moron is the president of the United States? Like, literally, the aliens would land, and he would just lie about everything. He'd just go on TV and be like, they said I'm now the king of the world, and blah. You know what I mean? Like, he would just ruin everything. We'd probably all end up either dead, or any opportunity for advancement of the human species would be gone. So for the first time in my life, I'm actively hoping that aliens don't come to Earth.
Yeah.
Just like wait it out till like 2020, and we'll probably be okay.
Yeah, well, you know that meeting he had with Kim Jong-un?
The photo op that led to nothing.
Yeah. And, they stood around the table and thinking about sitting down to eat, and Kim's sat there very awkward going, I don't know what anyone's saying. And you got Donald just being very putting all this bravado out, and imagine like, putting an alien race in that room as well, and they'll just be talking to Kim and going, what is this fucking guy doing, man? Honestly.
They would. They think he was the sane one, and meanwhile, he just probably watched his uncle being eaten alive by dogs. Just supposedly how he killed his uncle. And Trump is like shaking hands with him and being buddy. You're right. The aliens would probably go to Kim and like try to talk to him and be like, is this really how this world works? They'd probably just get up and leave.
Yeah. I'd imagine so, yeah. In just a massive big cloud of dust and be like, do you know what? We'll give you another 100,000 years and then we'll be back later on.
Or as Jack Woodgate says in Edison going into the burlesque house.
Is that where he walks in, puts his hat down, and then walks
Yeah, yes. Sees Bart, puts his hat on, moves back out.
Oh, that's exactly how it would be. Oh, man. Yeah, so, yeah, that's all kicking off over your way, I suppose. Yeah, Brexit, I don't know. That's going to stay where it is. I kind of just blinkering myself on that and just wondering what's going on. There was a point, I think last year, where I was stood in a queue and there was someone asking to change some money up. And obviously we have the pounds and sterling, and they wanted to change it up to the euro. And they were going through all the transactions on how much you get for the pound. And this person was screaming at us, I didn't vote for this. I wanted to leave. I didn't vote for this at all. And I stood there going, well, you kind of did vote for this price hike, didn't you? But you didn't really know about it. So, yeah, it's so divided, though. That's the worrying thing about everything. I feel like America is very much divided, and I feel England or Great Britain is very much divided on both these subjects. And it's
I mean, in
weird.
Britain, I think it's cut us down the middle. I mean, I think it's going to be generations before this sort of starts to heal. With all the, I mean, you've still got divisions between people who are for Brexit and are against Brexit, and until I think our generation goes, it's probably going to remain like that.
Yeah.
And I think in America, I think what you have is, it's not, I think often in the media and whatnot, people say like half the country. That's why I try to say it's not half the country. Trust me, it's far less. It's about, now they say in polls like 30 to 40% of people support Trump. I think the last poll was 37%. Mm-hmm. Out of that 37%, I would say there's a good percentage of people who don't answer these questions because the right wing, I mean, you have to see that the Republican Party and the right wing and religious establishment in America has been working on this for generations, has been kind of dumbing down its constituents and lying to them in order to deceive them. Not that the Democrats don't do it as well, but they do it in a more traditional way. Whereas the Republicans are like, this is like George Orwell, as we've seen with Trump. So I don't think America is actually as divided as people seem to think it is. We just have a fringe minority has taken power, and that's really not happened before. And they are a fringe minority because, trust me, when you see these things of like Trump supporters being hounded out of restaurants, people being yelled at, I mean, it happens, man. Like, you're not, I mean, of course, then again, I live in Portland, Oregon, which is the most progressive city in the country, probably alongside with like some cities in like Vermont or something. Right. But most people are more so just sick of politics and think that like everybody's a liar, which is almost as bad. But it's not like half of America wants to restart the Civil War. It's a small minority of people. And unfortunately, because these other people want to keep their power, as you see it all over the world, they never stood up to them. You know what I mean? Like, for example, we had the World Trade Center, which I watched with my own eyes. The Twin Towers fall, 3,000 people die. We spend 20 years basically ostracizing Muslims in America, even though they make up less than 1% of the American population. There's no danger from Islamic terrorism in America. It's like less than 1% of the population. But then you see a report yesterday that Catholic priests in Pittsburgh molested thousands of children, raped them. There's no Senate investigation. There's no outcry. There's no TV movie. You know what I'm saying? there's a problem in America of speaking out against the religious right and saying, because there's like, oh, we have to have respect for people who believe in God, and America was founded on freedom of religion, blah, blah. Well, the truth is America was really founded by crazy people who you rightfully kicked the fuck out of your country. You know what I mean? Let's be honest here, okay? Like, the Pilgrims were not sane. They were a cult, and the founding fathers of our country were a bunch of guys who were trying to capitalize on the fact that mommy and daddy were across the pond.
Yeah.
It's, what I mean? So it's like America is coming to grips with the lie that it is, right?
Yeah, I guess it's because it's shown on the TV so often, and the minority is shown on the TV, and so you get used to seeing that, and so you think, well, hang on, it's bigger than what it actually is.
Exactly.
It's normally the crowd that shouts the loudest gets the most attention, and that's kind of what's happening.
And who has their back up against the wall.
Yeah.
And what's happening is that you have in America the legalization of gay marriage, which to people like me is fine. Not only fine, I've wondered my whole life why gay people couldn't get married. Love is love. I never saw a problem with it. Yeah. But you have actually a small religious minority, because the number of Americans that are actively religious has plummeted over the last 30 years, plummeted. Catholicism, Christianity, Judaism, Islam all have a negative growth rate in the United States. The United States has a negative religious growth rate, so their backs are kind of up against a wall. So they have to kind of push to bring us back to the 1500s like they want, And this is what the result is. You get a guy like Trump, who's just a con man capitalizing on whoever will fervently follow him, right? Yeah. And there you have it. They have their leader now, so they're willing to put up with a guy who has abused women, abused children, divorced twice, cheated on his illegal alien wife, who was most likely probably a prostitute before she came to America, with a Playboy model and a porn star. And they love him.
Yeah. That's this the beauty of it, isn't it?
That's the guy and then our last president, Obama, was squeaky clean. The worst thing he ever did was smoke a joint and admit it. Was married to the same woman, was a beautiful father to his children, is, in my opinion, a genius. President of the Harvard Review, editor of the Harvard Review. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like literally the American dream, and they hated him.
Yep.
And he was a good Christian too, who actually went to church. Like, they could say he went look, there he goes. But they hated him. Yeah. And that's why, because America has never gotten over the Civil War, and there is a deep-seated racism and bigotry that pervades this country, but it pervades the world. You guys see it with Brexit, right? Isn't a lot of the people who want a Brexit because they are anti-immigration, right? Isn't the way I understand it?
Okay, Mike, what do you think? Because the way I see it, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons.
I think immigration is a big topic, though, and I think that's a good portion of it. Yeah. But not that I'm saying that all these people are racist, but I think there's just been a lot of
there's
been a lot of stuff whipped up about immigration. I think it's the level of immigration.
Yeah. Well, you make a point, because that's really more a question of how Europe is so different than America, right? People in America are worried about immigration from Mexico, but the actual truth is that it has been, again, there's a negative growth rate there. There's more people who were born in Mexico are leaving America than coming in. And it's been that way for the past 10 to 15 years. But they make it, and if you ask, when they go and interview all the people on the border, do you have a problem? Blah, blah. Nobody has a problem with it. It's all the people in the southern and Midwestern states who see a growth of Mexican immigrants or Hispanic immigrants coming there from Central America or South America, and they just don't like that they speak another language and that they're brown. They're not actually taking anyone's job. You know what I mean? Like, because look what happened. Now you have farmers who can't get people to farm because Trump.
I think I saw an Onion headline today. I think it was about police raiding some immigrants' house because they think that they got 93 jobs locked in their basement. Okay.
Dude, it's a lot. It's just the mixed messages, right? The truth is that there's a consolidation of money all over the world, and it's the 1%, and it's the same thing in America. And the reason why the middle class has evaporated is not because immigrants came and took our jobs. It's because there are less of those jobs because corporations have cut them and cut salaries in order to raise profits.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And smart people know that. But you have a lot of people who are educated. I mean, Christ, my own stepmother and father are educated people, but they love Trump. And the reason they do is because they're racists.
Mm.
That's what they are. They literally just think that it's not a good environment unless people are squeaky clean white and speak English.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's sad. When my grandparents were from Ireland. But I guess they did speak English. You couldn't tell from my grandmother, though. She had a very thick accent.
That's not racist.
I thought we were talking about video stores.
Yeah, that's what we're supposed to be doing, man. We've got really, really deep. Just before we go into that, Martin, you went to Nine Worlds.
I did indeed, yes. I spent the past few days at Nine Worlds. Actually, this was my first day back at work after some time off. So
Today's your come down day, is it?
That was kind of Monday when I was coming back from Nine Worlds, and I had a nice Tuesday. So I went to see Ant-Man and the Wasp, and these wonderful reclining chairs. I went to see it in the Blue Water, and so today's back to work.
Right. So how was Nine Worlds? Axel, do you know what Nine Worlds is?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, Martin, do you want to explain what that is? Because I'll balls it up. I just think it's like Comic-Con, but it's probably...
It is. It is a bit like Comic-Con. I mean, it's a sci-fi convention with sort of lots of cosplaying, lots of talks on various different subjects. So not just about sci-fi, fantasy, but things like crafting, things like technology. I mean, it's quite a range of panels, actually. I mean, for example, there was a panel looking forward to the 13th Doctor I went to. It's a panel about historical accuracy in costumes and TV and film. Cool. My friend Harriet did one on sex at Hogwarts. Basically, sex in Harry Potter universe.
Ooh.
And there was people sort of fighting with swords and sword punk, I think it was called. We had Nightmare Live as well, which Mr. Darren Barnard took part in.
Okay.
And
how was that from a viewer's perspective?
That was very interesting. It was, especially since they were recreating everything on stage as well. So it was interesting. It was a fun watch.
Right.
And again, he kind of got a little disconnection because Darren's up there as well, and he does a few things. I think he fell off the stage at one point.
Oh, bless his little cotton socks. But
hey, do they have do you guys know about Gundam?
Gundam.
I heard of it, but
models, the plastic models. Are they popular there?
I've heard about it, but I'm not exactly right. Okay, to YouTube, to Google about Gundam. I'm not going to get some Gundam porn come up, am I? If I Google this.
No, I don't think so. Maybe just Harry Potter porn. I gotta tell my son. I can't tell my son about that. He loves Harry Potter. I'm just wondering because I recently gotten into building these Gundam models with my son, and I'm interested in what other countries they're popular in because they're not really popular at all in the United States. I mean, you can get them in hobby shops and stuff like that, but most people I talk to, even like geeky people, don't know what they are. And the only
saw that there was a green one that you was doing. Is that right?
Yeah. I did the pattern lining on it.
Is it based on an anime at all?
Yes, it is. Yep.
That's probably where I've heard it in relation to.
Yeah, and the only podcast I listen to about it is like for English guys.
Oh, really?
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's called Gunpla Club, and one of the guys actually ended up working for Bandai in the UK for like social media, so he had to leave the podcast. But I was just wondering if it was popular, because when you were saying like crafts and like cosplay and stuff, from what I understand, that some of these conventions, they'll have like a lot of people are into Gundam, but I guess not there.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I can't say that there may have been panels on it at some point. This convention's been running for quite a few years now. And there's always a nice sort of variety of kind of geeky topics, kind of everything you can think of, really.
So these are like massive
quite
robots
obscure ones as well.
Yeah, but the models are, they cost between, so they have different levels, and they range from, like high grade to perfect grade. So they go like, some of them are between, $10 and $20. Then the more expensive ones are like 30 to 40, a little bit bigger. They're about, like 6-7 inches tall. Right. And when you build them, the thing is they're like toys. Like they don't have the same structural integrity as a molded plastic, because it's a snap together model. Yeah. But you'd be amazed, like you put it together and you're like, wow, I just built an awesome robot. But I love it. The perfect grade ones, though, they're about $200 or $300, and they're like about a foot tall or so.
Jeez,
and
I can't afford that.
Yeah, they could take a long time to put together. But if you all do like hobby stuff, or if you like even if you like Lego, I think you like Lego, Elton, right?
Yeah, definitely.
If you like, see, one of the reasons I started doing Gundam is because Lego's so expensive. Yeah. And I love to like put models and stuff together. So I started putting those together, and let me tell you, it's pretty cool. And for the sci-fi geek, it's really fun. The robots are pretty cool.
I'm just looking at the images. If I was at school, I'd be all over this. This is amazing. I think my boy's just a bit too old for it, though. I don't know. Well, I say that, there's going to be like 30, 40-year-old people that want to play with this sort of stuff as well.
So you've lost your excuse then? Is that what you're saying, Elton?
I didn't say that at all. I don't know what you mean.
You should get, how old is he?
He's 15 now.
I think, well, yeah, it depends. I think actually if you got him one of these, they're called master grades. They're the ones that are about $30-40 American dollars. I guess they'd be a little bit more expensive over there, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah. We're getting fleeced out of everything at the moment.
Yeah, you would, it's a challenge to put together. You have to concentrate, and my son does it. He's only, as we talked about, he's only going to be 6. But he can't do that level. They have small ones that they call super deformed, and they're like little guys.
Oh yeah, they're like the stubby Star Wars stuff that we had a couple of years ago.
Yeah, exactly. They look just like that. Yep.
Right, I found a picture. You got SD, that's stubby deformed, high grade, real grade, master grade, and high grade again. Yeah,
they're not exact. Some of them don't have the exact grades, and then some high grades are smaller than other. It's Japanese stuff, so it's very particular. They have like different reasons for why this one is it, but they're incredibly detailed. But that's cool.
Yeah, they look like Transformers that have just stayed in the.
Because they are, Elton. You figured it. They actually, if you watch on Netflix this show called The Toys That Made Us, you'll find out that Gundam are the inspiration for Transformers. Like literally Optimus Prime looks like RX-78-2, which is the original Gundam.
Oh, okay.
You see that the kind of his chest looks like the front of a car. So when they made Transformers, they actually sent G.I. Joes, larger ones, to Japan to try to come up with a toy. And they made Transformers. And they were based on Gundam is partly what they're based on other toys as well. But if you like toys, the Toys That Made Us on Netflix is a fantastic series. It's a little goofy, but they really interviewed the right people who designed them, and it's a great series. Have you guys seen that?
I haven't yet, but it's on my radar. I've heard it's very good.
Yeah.
So I do mean to give that a watch at some point.
Yeah, same here. Oh, that's going to go to the top of the list now. God damn you. You're going to cost me a fortune now.
They're so fun, dude. You're going to get into it. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt about what else you saw at the convention.
Okay. So went along with, there's quite a few people there. As Elton's your podcast husband, Mr. Andy Palestris. There's also let's see, it was Joan Alexander, William Zarish, Catelyn Hannett. There was Harry Ellis. There was Lee Harvey as well, and many other people. I went along with Darren Barnard, of course, and spent a lot of time in cosplay as well, because that's what all of us go for. Sort of in and out of the panels and just walking around in costume.
Yeah, well, it'll be rude not to, wouldn't it? Although, I probably wouldn't do that. But, that's just me. I am the minority that would go to one of these places and then not dress up at all.
Oh, you're not in the minority, Elton. There's lots of people who go and don't dress up. But, well, I suppose, some people sort of dress up in their own ways, of course, because it's a very inclusive convention, so you'll get people walking around in perhaps not cosplay, but just in stuff they don't sort of normally wear in everyday life.
Yeah.
Perhaps different kind of costumes, different kind of clothes, rather.
It's a place for people to feel comfortable in whatever they want to wear, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's one thing I noticed about that this year, sort of the amount of people who are just in quite a more, I don't know how to describe it really, just sort of different clothes, different costumes, just, really sort of trying to express themselves.
Yeah. Cool.
That's awesome. What did you dress as?
Oh, there's the question. What I do is mainly crossplay, which is cross-dressing cosplay. So this year I did, I don't know if you know Doctor Who at all, but I dressed as Clara Oswald. In one time I dressed as was a waitress uniform somebody made me from the episode Hellbent. There's also Star Trek. I had a very sort of 60s red mini dress, which somebody asked me how I sat in. I just said, well, very carefully, to be quite honest. And I had Harley Quinn outfit as well. So I did that. It's sort of Harley Quinn schoolgirl thing. I kind of a mashup I did.
Nice.
Which I was very, very pleased with. I was quite pleased with my cosplay this year.
Nice. I used to have.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
What was the dressing up or the cosplaying that you saw the most of? Because I'd imagine some years you would get all the Harley Quinns and all the Jokers turning up. So what was the most popular one there this time round?
Oh God!
Did you see lots of the same or different people dressed up in the same sort of uniform, or was there any Attack on Titan people there, or what?
To be honest, I wouldn't know how to recognise anyone from Attack on Titan because I'm not particularly into it myself. I can't think there's any particular ones. I saw a few Harley Quinns around. You always see a few various Harley Quinns, and you see the odd sort of people dressed up from Doctor Who and Star Wars in particular. I mean, there was somebody I had these very glittery, sort of fabulous costumes, which is kind of very silvery and glittery. And you had one day they were a stormtrooper from Star Wars, one day Darth Vader, and another day Cyberman from Doctor Who. but then you also get people as diverse as cosplaying the prisoner.
Oh.
Yeah, there's got to be some years. I remember last year someone dressed up as some lemmings. This just had a whole crowd of people who were lemmings, and this year as well on the Sunday, you had a lot of people wearing the brain slugs from Futurama.
Oh, I don't know that.
You never seen Futurama, Elton?
I've seen bits of Futurama. What are the brain slugs?
Well, they're just these kind of. I'm trying to remember. These slug things that just attach you and just take over you. Basically, take over your brain.
Right.
Just turn you into a zombie. From what I remember. With the cosplay thing as well, you're given everybody who attends the convention is given 5 tokens, and you basically, if you see someone who's cosplay, you give them a token. So it's a very nice way to earn. And if you get about 15 tokens, then you can sort of swap it for a badge.
Cool.
Oh, it's cool.
It's a very nice way. It's a very new way of doing things as well, because you do get the big sort of cosplay conventions here, like MCM and things like that, which have people kind of walking around and everything. This is kind of like a little reward. It actually feels quite nice. It's got to get a bit of kudos for someone who comes up to you and say, I really like what you're wearing. I really like what you've done.
Nice. Cool. Excellent. Right. Well, I suppose we better move on to our main subject of the day, really. And that is video stores, really. So where do you want to start with this one? Because I've been to video stores all over the place. Well, I say all over the place where I used to live. And I've used like the big retailers and small back alley ones as well. And they kind of don't exist anymore, do they?
No, not really. It's something you don't. Again, I think it's something with our generation growing up in the 80s. I don't think we're likely to see again. Really, I mean, it's kind of like the death of physical media. You know, people won't believe you when you say that. Oh, you had to go out to get a video. You had to physically get off your ass, go to a store, and have a look around. One thing that was interesting is I was listening to the Irish Podcast the other week, and they were talking specifically about this. Is that you're in risk of these days. Everything is so personalised, isn't it? We get things like Netflix. Recommend you things. I think you've got to pick a certain amount of films or TV shows when you get started, just so they can personalise the experience. It's all down to personalising now. Whereas you could walk around the video store and it's taken that element of surprise out, where you could walk around the corner, see something that looks like an awesome cover and just think, I want to see that. That might not be in your wheelhouse at all, but you just think, right, I'm going to have that. I really want to see what that's like. And it's something as well I know from some wandering around secondhand bookstores. You don't have that. Something like Amazon, yes, that's convenient, but you don't get the joy of discovering some book that was printed over 40 years ago that you think, oh, that's very interesting. Oh, that's 50p. I'll pick that up.
Yeah.
But as you say, it's something that simply doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. What about
So
yourself,
you guys.
Axel?
So I just want to understand you. So you don't have any video rental stores near either of your homes?
I think you can still rent DVDs from the libraries, but apart from that, nothing. No little stores, no Blockbusters. I mean, Blockbusters has died out ages ago. But yeah, probably just you can go down to the library. You can rent DVDs from there. Anywhere else, nothing.
No, so there's no red box or anything like that. Like here we have these little kiosks that look like a soda machine, and you can pick a movie out of it, and it costs like $1 a night.
No, nothing like that. That sounds awesome,
No.
though.
No,
Oh,
not heard of that. Oh, nice.
So it's different here. Just to let you all know that I've been working on a documentary with Mike Hull, who people who are listening, if they know us, have listened to. I didn't even mention, go to DVR Podcast Network and check out everything else that we do. Cover Game of Thrones and Westworld and all that. And Mike covers Game of Thrones. We're actually doing a series now where we look at Game of Thrones from a purely production aspect, a film aspect. We're calling it the Director's Series. But we're working on a documentary about video stores. I started working at Blockbuster when I was around maybe 20. And I worked there for about a year and a half. And then I was lucky enough when I was about 27, 28, for 5 years, I worked at a store called World of Video, which was, in my estimation, the best video store in Manhattan, in New York City. It was in Greenwich Village, and we specialized in foreign films, hard-to-get films, art films, but we had everything. And I worked there for about 5 years, and Mike has been traveling around interviewing people all around America at different video stores for about the past, we've been working on it for like 5 years, and 6 years really, since World of Video closed. Mike shot the end, like them closing, and then he's went around and interviewed people all over the country. And what's happened in America is you had Blockbuster and things like Suncoast Video, West Coast Video, kind of put out of business a lot of the smaller mom and pop video stores. Yeah. As so often happens. Then, Blockbuster went out of business, as you're talking about. People gave up physical media. And as Netflix kind of put Blockbuster out of business, first through DVDs by mail, then through streaming, what happened is there came Redbox, and Redbox is basically Netflix at a kiosk. So you just go to a kiosk. Usually they're located at like a 7-Eleven, a Bodego, a food store, like a shopping center, or like a Target or something like that. And you just basically pay $1 and you rent the movies. Now, of course, this is, they rarely have independent films, unless they're very popular. So your choices are much smaller, but the availability is there. But then what also happened is, as Redbox is actually going out of business now because more and more people are streaming and renting from Amazon through their TV or whatever, right? Yeah. And a lot of video stores in America, it's become kind of a, here we call it kind of like hipster, like it's like the new hip thing,
It's going back to vinyl, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. You got it, Elton. So it's going back to vinyl. So here in Portland, there are like 4 or 5 mom and pop video stores that I have one right up my street that I go to all the time. And I try to, even though they're a little bit more expensive, they do like $3 for 2 nights. I'll pay the extra quarter, 50 cents to rent from them instead of Redbox, keep them open. They have a much bigger variety. They have video games that you can rent as well. Yep. And there's a place called, what is it called? Like Hollywood Video Madness or something. I only went to it once, but because it's about a half hour away from me. But so these are kind of popping up around the country. There's actually a guy that we interviewed who opened a store called Video Free Brooklyn. This guy, Aaron Hillis, who was a film critic, and he opened a store in Brooklyn, and it's doing well. So video stores are actually making a little bit of a comeback. And another thing that some video stores are doing, like you mentioned the library. I'm a big library guy. I go to the library like 10 times a week with my son, and I've always went to the library. They're becoming nonprofits. So there's a place called Scarecrow Video in Seattle, and they are a nonprofit now. You can get a membership there, and people pay into it almost like it's a co-op, and you get like a certain amount of rentals a month, And they also work for film preservation. They put on events. People come through. They teach classes. So what people are trying to do is preserve the video store by kind of turning it into either a nonprofit, an educational center, almost like a library, right? The place up my street is a coffee shop. And the guy told me, even though 90% of the actual store is a video store, they make 90% of the money from the coffee, which is only behind the counter.
That's like the movie, the cinemas nowadays, isn't it? Where they don't make any money off the sale of the ticket, but the only money they do make is off the popcorn. That's why it's like 1,000,000% on top.
Yeah, and it's like the same thing at this video store. They make all their money off of people. They have like a drive-through coffee place, and people come in the morning and they sell ice cream and all different kinds of different coffees. I don't drink coffee, so I don't know what they're all the little cappuccinos and all that stuff. And that's how they kind of stay alive, is by, coming up with a different business model. But, the video store has been around for 30 years.
You've just blown my mind with this Redbox stuff. This is
Redbox is cool.
So, right, so you use this Redbox, yeah?
I do, yep.
So, what is stopping you from going in there and renting out all the videos in there for $1 each and then never returning them?
Because it's linked to your credit card.
So you have to pay by card?
Yep, you have to pay by card.
And what happens if you don't return it? Do you get charged the price of the DVD?
I think the way it works is they charge you a late fee every day, which is the same fee as if you took the movie out. So it's like $1.50 a day.
Yeah.
When it reaches a certain point, it cuts off and they just charge you for the cost of the DVD or Blu-ray.
Right.
So you can get Blu-ray or DVD. I mean, that's another thing that put video stores out of business, which is the format changes. It's very expensive to go from VHS to DVD, and then a lot of stores had barely gotten rid of their VHS and went to DVD by the time, and then Blu-ray came out.
That's right, yeah.
So I know at World of Video, Blu-ray was very new, and I don't think we had any, maybe one or two by the time the store had closed, but we still had an entire downstairs, like our entire basement of World of Video. We still let people rent, but they just had to know what it was, because they were particular rare films. They were all on VHS. I still have VHS from World of Video.
Right. So, are there people still renting out VHSs nowadays?
I mean, I think from some of these stores, yes. From the store up my street, no. Yeah. But there's still a lot of things that aren't available on DVD.
Yeah, that's
or Blu-ray.
That is very true. It's the swapping over of format, and do they go to DVD, then Blu-ray, and then stream, or do they just go straight to streaming? And who's going to convert that as well? And has anyone got the original to convert from, or are we going to just scan it and pan and scan type thing? I don't know.
Yeah. See, that's why you mentioned, Elton, that's why I am a big proponent of physical media. I can't tell you the number of times I've rented a movie from Amazon's a lot better. Amazon, pretty much all of the new movies are in the correct aspect ratio.
Yeah.
When I rent movies from, say, I have DirecTV, that's my television provider. I have satellite DirecTV. And you will get movies that are, it's not really scanned and panned anymore. It's just blown up. There are still people who think that when you're watching on a 16:9 screen, a traditional widescreen television, that traditional, that's what we all have now, that it should cover the entire screen. So when they see the black bars, they think something's wrong with the movie. So it still drives me nuts. and they want it to take up the whole screen.
Oh, and then
So-
it stretches. Everyone
Yep.
looks a bit weird. Everyone's got long
Yep.
heads.
And I know HBO in particular lately, when it gets a movie before anyone else, it's been showing it in its original aspect ratio, but there's still tons of things that are not in the right aspect ratio. I just feel like with physical media, when you get these DVDs and stuff, people put a little bit more time into it.
Yeah.
And at least you can hold it in your hand and see what the, you can check out what the real format is, because I'm a stickler for that. I can't watch a movie if it's scanned and panned or stretched out, or I just can't watch it.
Yeah, I think I had that when I first got my very first DVD player, and it was a case of, you can either stretch it to make it fit, because some of these DVDs would still be like the 4 by, I can't even remember, the 4:3 was it? I can't remember the ratio anyway, but
Something like that, yeah.
the center wouldn't stretch, but the further you got away from the center, the more it would stretch to fill that space. And that, especially, it was like looking through like a fisheye lens, and you go through it. In the middle would be absolutely fine, but if you look anywhere towards the edges, it looked a bit weird. And then when it was drawn into the middle, it just made you feel a bit icky. But I've still got a copy of JFK on my shelves on DVD, and the amount of trouble I had with that, because I didn't really understand it at the time. I thought, because I had a widescreen TV and because I had a DVD player that would play widescreen, then why the hell am I still getting these boxes? Why am I still getting this letterbox? And on that version, I think it's like the 16 by, I once again forgot the ratios, but it was the big format, and the letterbox was tiny compared to all the black bars above and below, and it used to drive me bonkers. Obviously now I know that I have to grin and bear it, and some movies I kind of like it. I kind of like them black bars. It means like you're watching a real movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like if you were to buy a novel and someone just edited it, and not even the editor, not even somebody who cared. They basically chopped out 100 pages so it was cheaper, or because they thought that you wouldn't want the parts that were hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're talking about films that cost sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars to make, and artists have sweat to make it look the way they want, have done like camera tests and lens tests and, all this stuff. And then when you see it, it's all chopped up. It doesn't look right. For me, I check the aspect ratio before I watch a film. I'll usually try to check the aspect ratio. If it's not, because generally the rule is this: if it's not a comedy, and this is just general, this is not like a hard and fast rule at all, but it's kind of what I tell people. If you're not watching a comedy, you should have black bars on your screen. It's rare that now that there's different cases, like if you watch The Dark Knight, it goes from letterboxed to taking up the whole screen, and that's because Nolan shot parts of, he does it with almost all of his films, there's a change in aspect ratio because he shoots part of it in IMAX or 70 millimeter. So it's hard to understand, right? So, but generally speaking, you want a wider frame when you're a filmmaker. You don't want a smaller frame. But in comedies, there's not as much involved in what they call the mise en scene, the things that are within the frame, right?
Yeah.
And as far as the camera work and things of that nature, so they shoot it in a wider format. And it allows, because generally also they know that it's more people are going to see it on HBO or whatever. And so it eliminates that extra editor cutting it up,
Yeah, it's ready to go, already packaged, isn't it?
Yes, and they're not going to take that same time in like a Judd Apatow movie. You know what I mean? Like they're shooting with multiple cameras, so they're not lighting or their set decoration, everything that makes up the frame is not as I don't know. It's not crafted as much as, say, if you were going to watch, a David Fincher film or, something of a little bit of higher quality where they're taking all that into account. Not that they're ignoring it, but.
Yeah, I suppose with the comedy, as you say, the comedy is on the screen. You either need to see it or hear it or know that it's coming along. And very few times I've seen a comedy movie and the joke has been off screen or further off screen that it doesn't really apply to the main characters in the center of the screen. And so it's, I suppose I can understand that, but then you have like
only really something like The Naked Gun, where I think there's a lot of gags, filling the screen. I think where you have to, or a lot of sight gags where you'd have to look out for that. With all most comedies are dialogue based, or because as you say, it's center of the screen.
That still be centered around almost around the center of the screen, at least. In the center portion of the screen, it would be very. I don't think you would see it far off in the right-hand corner. A joke over there when you're really supposed to be looking at the other side of the screen.
I think it's also about, like you're saying, framing. Whereas in most comedies, you're really limited. You're doing more close-ups and mid-shots. There's not a lot of wide sweeping shots. Like. You don't like
expressions as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like when you watch Happy Gilmore, they're not showing these beautiful widescreen John Ford like shots of the golf course. They're showing Adam Sandler's big bug. You know what I mean? Like it's just different formats. But yeah, I'm kind of a stickler for that. So I like physical media. I like having the opportunity to hold it in my hand. And also you see how things are with like, everything you buy from iTunes, you don't really own. You're really only renting it.
Yeah.
Well, it's I find it puts me in mind of something. You might remember this, Elton, that Lee Metcalf, who I think maybe still in the chat. I think he had everything he had on Blinkbox. He bought a bunch of things. Then they decided to change over to a new format and basically deleted everything he owned on there. So he's no longer able to watch everything he thought he owned that he didn't. I mean, I remember a while ago I bought a bunch of stuff. The BBC did a service. I bought a bunch of digital shows, and then they decided to pack up. So basically said, "Oh well, sorry, you can either close it down, or you can have your money back for it." So I asked for my money back.
Yeah. See,
so Axel, it's not really much of a way of doing things. At least with the physical media, as you say, it's there. You can put it on your shelf. I can take that down anytime I want.
Exactly. Yeah, Axel, I'm very much like you with the physical media. I would rather have a CD or a DVD or a Blu-ray. I think I prefer DVDs because I can't really dig on the Blu-rays at the moment. I don't know what it is. Maybe my eyesight. I don't know, but I prefer the.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Elton. I've still got DVDs. I don't think I've got a Blu-ray player. Anyway,
I would rather have the physical copy with a game for the PlayStation or whatever. I would rather go out and I'd rather spend a couple of extra quid to get the box it makes it very tactile, and then you have the joy of taking out the disc and put it into the thing, and then it actually works. Rather than in 5 years' time, your console is now obsolete, and then Sony turn around and say, well, do you know what? Sorry, let's turn that machine off that pumps out these games, and then you never get to play it ever again. And at that point, you were kind of just renting your game. Now, I suppose you're not, when you buy a game, you are just buying the license to play that game. You're not really buying the actual disc that it's printed on, because they're less than pennies, aren't they?
There's some video games that there's actually the game is not even on the disc. The disc is a pass-through key to allow the system, and it acts like it's downloading an update, and it's actually downloading the game.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, I've heard about this as well. Yeah.
Oh, so I think, look, I'm kind of shocked too that there's no video store. I hope that in the UK it becomes kind of popular, like old vinyl or record stores, to open a video store, because not just having the physical, and you never know, like for instance, Lost was on Netflix for so long and then it went over to Hulu.
Right.
And I was on some Facebook group and people were like getting mad. They're like, why the F would now I'm canceling my Netflix and blah, blah. And it's like, well, what did you think? Like, nobody promised you, unless you own the box set at your house, you can't be guaranteed that the next day you're not going to wake up and whatever streaming show you're watching is not, they're not going to pull it and put it somewhere.
I'm constantly like that as well. I don't take it for read that anything is on Netflix now. I'm always thinking, how long until they take this off, or which actually makes you think, oh, I better see this before it suddenly mysteriously disappears.
And that's happening more. That's changed, right? Like, it used to be that if you put something in your Netflix queue, it was going to be there for a while. Now a lot of things come and go. And the other thing that I always love about video stores, and the big reason why I still go to video stores, and why I loved working at video stores, is you were talking about everything's so personalized. And I don't know if that's really true. People like to say, oh, you have a personalized, your own personalized experience on whatever, Netflix, Hulu, iTunes, whatever. But it's just an algorithm, right? Like, they're never right when they suggest things to me. The reason why I like it, they're never right. I hardly ever find anything from the suggestions that they give me. I still find more things from people.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Right? And it's changed from, it used to be that I'd walk into a video store, and I'm the kind of guy who talks to anyone, so I'd just say, hey, what are you looking for? When people came into the video store and I was working there, when I was working at Blockbuster, I didn't have too many conversations because I literally work with people who did not know what The Godfather was. And that's pretty bad. And this is a real thing that happened. I was at Blockbuster working. This girl who was working too came up to me and said, someone asked if we had a movie called The Godfathers. And I said, you mean Godfather? And she said, yeah. And then the other guy who was working said, what the hell's that? I never heard of that, The Godfather. And, this was 20 years ago. So that was when I was like, I can't work here anymore. This is too frustrating for me. Yeah. At World of Video, we had to take a test to get the job.
Really?
I had to take a test. It's the only video story I've ever heard that you had to take a test to get the job. I had to list like my 10 favorite Woody Allen movies in order. I had to, there were questions of French directors, Russian director. It was a great little quiz that Mitch, the old owner of World of Video, had come up with. And, we would have deep conversations with people. We had a lot of famous people come into the store as well. Tarantino was a member. Scorsese was a member. James Gandolfini. John Cameron Mitchell came in all the time. That dude was in there like every day. He was a really nice guy. That's the guy who wrote and created Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
Oh, wow, yes.
He did Short Bus and Rabbit Hole. He has a new movie coming out called How to Talk to Girls at Parties. I think it just hit Netflix or Amazon or something.
I've heard of that, yes.
There were old school guys like Andre Gregory from My Dinner with Andre. He was a member there. Wallace Shawn, who's in My Dinner with Andre, was also there. I mean, I could list the number of actors.
That's inconceivable.
Who came in there. Exactly, that's him. Remember the guy from the Warriors who said, Warriors, come out and play. You remember that movie?
That was the dude out of Bill and Ted, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was
Alex Winter.
Yeah.
No, not Alex Winter. No, he looks like him kind of, but it's a different dude. Warriors was much earlier. Actually, not much. Maybe only about 10 years.
Yeah,
But
79, I think Warriors was.
yeah, there was a lot of people. So we had the opportunity to have real conversations about film. And actually, I remember one day Tarantino and Sofia Coppola came in, and I helped them for about a half an hour, 40 minutes, find some movies, and I made some suggestions, and actually they rented them, and they were on like a date.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. And then I ran out of the store and gave Tarantino a VHS copy of the movie Mike and I made called Smokers, which was a lot of fun.
Oh, wow.
And he was pretty good. Everybody was cool. Gandolfini was awesome. He was just like Tony Soprano.
Right,
I mean,
okay.
he was the only person who came into the store that was famous that people were scared of, because the Sopranos was on while he was coming into the store. And you know how big that TV show was, and he literally looks and sounds exactly like Tony Soprano.
I heard that about him. That they kind of, now I might be doing them a disservice, but they were kind of rolling around with mafia type people as well, and kind of got drawn into that life. Would you say that was correct?
What's that? I'm sorry.
With the guy out of Sopranos, they got very close to the mafia itself.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll tell you what. He grew up in Jersey, and he knew my father for a brief period of time when he was in college. He used to come to the bar that my father was a bartender at, and that place later became a hangout. It actually might have been around the same time, a hangout for the mob in Jersey.
Right.
So whether or not he knew people, I mean, I think everybody who grows up in northern New Jersey kind of knows some people who are probably in the mob,
right?
Or you thought they were. And that's where I grew up. So I knew people who were in the mob. I mean, it's not like the Sopranos. I mean, I wasn't involved in any of that kind of stuff. I didn't, you know what I mean? It was always like little rumors, or, you know what I mean? Or through my dad, he knew some guy and that kind of stuff. But he was physically Tony Soprano, like the breathing in the show where he's like, like you could hear him from across the store, man. But he was super nice. He was a super cool guy, and he'd come in with his young son, and he'd mainly want a movie that he could watch with his son. And I would help him out because I was kind of more the people turned to me for more. I knew a lot more about the popular stuff in television.
Yep.
Because a lot of the guys there were particular into French films, or they were like silent films or older films. I was kind of more of the up-to-date directors and fringy weird stuff. But it was but basically my point is, I had the opportunity. People would come in and and I would often say, I'd say, what do you feel like watching? Because we had a thing at this store where we knew that, there are people who came in to be enlightened and watch art, watch a film, right? Yeah. But there's also a lot of people who just wanted to see a dumb action movie or a rom-com that wasn't annoying, And so I literally, from the time I worked there, I think I probably watched nearly every single movie that came out. I would the movies come in on Thursday. So after I worked there for about a year and a half, maybe, I took over the job of processing the new DVDs that came in. So I would open them up. I would print out a label. I would enter them into the machine, the UPC and all that, so we could check them in and out. And then I would take them home and watch them. and I didn't need to really, I would bring them back pretty soon so the other guys in the shop could also watch them, but they don't get released until Tuesday, but they come in on Thursday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, that's 5 days that you have the DVD in the shop before you put it on the shelf.
Right.
So people get to watch it. And at a good video store, we were encouraged to take these DVDs home. Like I can remember sometimes Mitch would be like, somebody's got to watch this. You know, because
it's getting the knowledge, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, man. That's what I'm saying, Elton. Like we could talk to you and not just say like, you know, you last rented a comedy. Here are all the comedies, like Netflix does. You know, like,
well, it'll be silly if someone walked in and they want to see the new blockbuster, but they're not quite sure, so they need some persuading on watching it, and then you're there. And they go up to you, well, have you seen that? And you're stood there going, no, I haven't seen it yet. You know, it's just gone on the shelves. That's no good to anyone, is it? You need to walk in there and go, talk me into it, and then you could do that, and then you get the sale, don't you?
Yeah, and it also, it was building up a real relationship. Like I knew what type of films after working there for a while. Almost everyone that came in, because we had so many regulars, you know, Greenwich Village was kind of one of the last real neighborhoods in New York. I haven't been there in 10 years. I don't know what it's like now, but I'm sure it's not like what it was when I was working there in the early 2000s and such. But we developed real relationships with people, and we could really kind of talk about the films because we'd seen them. And like you're saying, we would talk to each other. So we loved it so much that, you know, through working, when I would take home 3 or 4 movies and bring them back on Friday, I would go and talk to all the guys and gals who work there. And I'd say, hey, I just checked out this movie. If someone comes in looking for like a quirky sci-fi movie, this is it. You know, or I remember when Primer came out, which I know, Elton, you love Primer.
Oh, I totally bummed Primer. I love it.
This is you are like me. I mean, I get chills just saying the word Primer because it's one of my all-time favorite films. I love it, love it, love it.
I really have to watch this movie.
You got, oh man, it's so awesome. You have to watch it several times because you are not going to understand it after watching it one time.
I've heard of it. I know of it, and I like Elton. I love me time travel movies. So I'm definitely gotta
it's
give
the best.
it a go at some point.
In my opinion, I am like a time travel guy. I know, Elton, you love time travel too. Mm-hmm. I think it's the best time travel film ever made. Now, I know people love like Back to the Future, these things that have elements of time travel, but Primer is like, that is all it's about.
Yeah.
You know, like that's it. And you really have to pay attention. You can't look away for 10 seconds. You can't look at your phone and check Twitter while you're watching Primer. You have to pay attention. And I remember when that came out and I brought it home to watch it, and then I freaked and I was like, yo, I just came in. I was like, everybody that walks in this store, you're telling them to watch this movie. Like, I remember I was just like going over and grabbing it and giving it to people. Like, you have to watch this. And when new movies came, I mean, we were lucky because we were in New York. So we could tell people like a new film would come out and we could say, oh yeah, well, you know, they came in and they were telling us about this. We would also have little bits of knowledge to tell people, you know. Another cool aspect of it was, and please stop me if I'm going on, but I don't get a chance.
Carry on, man. Carry on. Don't worry about that.
The cool thing too is that since we had such a large library, we were in Manhattan, we were the main source of clips for all the television stations, the universities, and the great directors. So we would have Scorsese, his assistant would come in and rent like 150 movies.
Different movies or the same?
Yeah. No, different. Just give us a list.
Right. Okay.
Because some of them, he was actually checking to see what was available on VHS or DVD and the quality of it, because that he's a film purist, and he also, what do they call it? Revitalize. He repairs and brings back old films, restores.
Okay.
Film restoration. So, and for the TV stations, we would know if a famous person died. If I heard that, I'm trying to remember who died when I was there. I can't remember. So many famous people died when I was there, but a famous person died, we would know, and everybody would know as soon as we came into the store, we'd just start pulling all their movies. Because NBC or CBS or ABC would call up and say, we need these 20 Elizabeth Taylor or whatever. We need all these movies for clips. This was back in the day, right? Now they can just go on YouTube, or they can, you know what I mean? Like, they would literally call us up and we would have to pull them. They'd send a messenger down. We'd give them the movies. And we'd make a good amount of money of that, because they wouldn't return those for like 2 weeks, which would piss people off too. Yeah. So we have to call them and bother them. One time I had to go there. I think, where was it? I think it was CBS. Either Mitch or one of the managers, maybe Pete, somebody was like, just go there and tell them they got to return these movies, man, because people are asking for them. But universities too, now they have their own libraries, but we would have stuff that they didn't have.
And
so
vast collection as well, I'd imagine.
Yes. And also, we carried knockoffs. We carried transfers. No one was ever going to, it's New York. Nobody's going to, stop selling us, Warner Brothers wasn't going to stop selling us movies because we had on the shelf, 20 movies on DVD that you couldn't get on DVD, because we had a guy who would transfer to DVD for us.
Right.
So make it available on DVD, because people don't want to watch on VHS anymore, even though it was just a straight VHS transfer, They would not.
That wasn't frowned upon at all?
I mean, it was frowned upon, but they didn't know, but ever. It was just kind of, it was almost like we were grandfathered in, and it was a popular store and people knew us, and they never cared. And plus the distributors never came by and checked, but we had tons of stuff like that. All types of bootleg VHS stuff. We had stuff taped off television that you couldn't get anywhere, like some, they used to do those, what was it, like American Playhouse, where they put on like plays live on TV.
Yeah.
And we had like a series of those that I think was not available, that someone had taped off a television.
Oh, brilliant.
We had anything that came across, Mitch would get it. Now, things started to change once the store started losing business. Like, we had to go from being, about 4,000 square feet. Then they gave up half of the store and we were down to like 2,000. So we had to put everything in the basement. And then that was when I started teaching high school video, and I stopped working there. But they only lasted about 2 more years, I think. They could have lasted longer, but the owner I don't think she wanted to. Mitch, the guy who originally started it, she bought him out, and her name was Linda, and she just didn't really want to do it anymore. I think she was kind of sick of it. But, there was a guy there, Rich, who had a great idea, and if they had listened to him, the store probably would still be open. And it's an idea that now has taken off, which is he wanted to have me, him, and Mike turn World of Video into a nonprofit and start teaching classes. And he was going to take the downstairs of, I forgot to tell you the greatest part of how we survived all those years.
Okay.
which was half of the store was gay porn.
Really?
So we had one of the largest collections of mainly male gay porn. I think maybe, I mean, in Manhattan, maybe, I don't know. I mean, like that you could rent, but we had the whole downstairs, like the upstairs. I can't describe it now because the store changed over time, but we had we were known, and we were in Greenwich Village, which is, traditionally a gay male mecca, kind of like the Castro or whatever in San Francisco. We were around the corner from, what's the famous Stonewall, where the Stonewall riots were and all that. That was around the corner from us. So we also had a lot of male porn stars who came into the store, and people that were kind of maybe they weren't. I mean, it was porn, but it was art. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stretched the boundaries.
So there was a storyline to it.
Yes, exactly. Well, there's storylines these days still, aren't there? I guess everything's just amateur now, right?
I don't know, like 3 minutes and then I'm done, really. So.
Yeah, you're telling me. Yeah, that was that was kind of a way to be able to have all of these obscure films that weren't going to go out 5 times a week, like the new Transformers. And that was an interesting part of working there as well.
See, maybe that's why it survived over in the US then.
It is.
So, okay, mine. Why has it died off over here then? Because I like the physical DVD, you like the physical DVD, so what happened?
I don't know. I think it might just be a cultural thing that it hasn't. Do you have a lot of old record shops that sell vinyl and stuff? Like we have that. Do you have that?
We do have some, but no, those.
I mean, not a lot, but you could probably I think I wouldn't say a lot. It's hard for me to tell because I lived in New York and Portland. Now I lived in North Carolina, but even in North Carolina, there were 2 or 3 video stores there. But there was a lot of record stores. But then again, I was in Durham, which is like where there's a lot of music that comes out of there. Yeah. But maybe it's just a cultural thing. Maybe in 5 years, it does surprise me because you'd think like maybe even some famous people would open up you know what I mean? Like who's that dude who was in Spaced and is now
Simon Pegg.
Yeah, you think like Simon Pegg would open a video store, like these more guys who are known for being geeky.
Yeah, they go really anal on this sort of stuff, and getting massive collections. Yeah, that would work actually.
Like Kevin Smith.
Perhaps videotapes are just too out of date. Maybe perhaps we've got to wait another 10 years or so for them to suddenly come back into fashion, and people will want them.
It doesn't necessarily have to be the VHS, right? If that's what you're saying, but I mean,
islands, they have to go somewhere. They're still on the island somewhere, surely.
Well, we're all on just a big island, right?
True, yeah. But, I suppose we have shops where you can go into a store and get a DVD for less than £1, and at the moment they're called CEX. And you can go in there, you can buy cheap video games. Everything's second hand or third hand or fourth hand, and you can buy computers there. You can buy games consoles there. You can buy your DVDs there. You can buy your Blu-rays there, and maybe that's our new version of it. Because I can go in there, I can buy Sopranos the first season for like £4, and then I can walk out with it. Never have to return it. It's mine to keep. And I suppose maybe that's the way that we've gone now, because I once again I still would rather have the physical thing, because I know earlier on you mentioned about Netflix mine and stuff dropping off. How many times have we put stuff on the Black Dog docket and then the next week, when we actually want to go watch it, it's fallen off of
Yeah.
Netflix.
Well, I think it was just the other week. Jim Moon reviewed Guide to the Apocalypse. I think it was, which is now just conveniently dropped off of Netflix. And I think there's a couple of other things. I think, I think was it the Labyrinth? I think it was when we did the Netflix roulette season. I think that ended up dropping off in the last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you can. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. Now, did you have Blockbuster, or was it mom and pop stores, or was there a chain?
Okay.
MV, or did you have like a chain video stores, or?
Well, HMV was more retail. I don't think they ever did rentals, but we kind of had a mixture of the two. I mean, there was Blockbusters, I think, was the main one, and Elton, I don't know if you used the same one I did, Blockbusters in Sidcup. That's all. I don't know if you ever went there.
I'd been there a couple of times. I used the one in Welling, where the railway bridge is, and there's a motorcycle shop just down the road from there. That's the one I used to use, because it was just round. I could walk to there.
I remember we also used to have a sort of small colours. I think some news agents had video rental sections, and I remember there was a specific video rental place up in my town. There was Apollo Video, I think it was called. You used to go in there and get something. I was going to ask as well, did you guys ever have anybody who came to you, basically, like we used to have a video man come around, just in a van, a lot of rental videos stuffed in the back of a van?
Dude, in New York, they're still on the corner. And what people will do is they'll put a bunch of videos in a blanket, they'll lay it down on a corner, lay them out, and a lot of times they're bootlegs. Nowadays, it's been like I said, I haven't lived in New York for over 10 years.
Is that to buy though? Is that to rent? Because this was a proper rental. I mean, this guy had come back every week or so.
That's kind of cool. So he was like a video store in a van. Yeah,
just a little van. He used to come around every so often, and of course, if you didn't turn up one week, you get to keep whatever you had. So I remember I ended up with a copy of Drop Dead Fred. I remember the Rick Mail comedy. I ended up with that because I rented it one week, and the guy never came back. And I always remember, because I had a Super Nintendo at the time. I don't know if either of you remember the game Clay Fighter at all. I don't know whether that rings any bells, but some good graphics for the time. I remember it must have been around mid-90s. But I always remember I'm in an argument about whether to renew this for another week, and I decided no, I'm giving it back. And then the guy never turned up again. If I'd have rented it that week, I would have had that to keep.
Oh. I never had anything like that. It was a case of we had either Blockbusters or there was a little parade of shops in Welling where you could go in, and it was a tiny little desk. He had a little selection. Sometimes you had to pre-book it as well. And I remember my dad pre-booking Return of the Jedi on Betamax from that place because we had a Betamax player.
Betamax? I don't think I ever saw any Betamaxes for rent. That's going back a bit.
Because it was one of the days where my dad had just bought a VHS, and so at that time we had a Betamax and a VHS. I thought, okay, we could do something here, and we ended up ripping the Betamax onto VHS and then keeping it. Not if anyone from the police is listening to that, that was totally fabrication. Please don't arrest me. I own the copy now on DVD, so don't arrest me.
Just like the big taping off the radio scandal.
Oh no, never did that.
No, never had a cassette tape wait for songs to come off the radio.
I'm going to say no, but I think you can hear my yes in between the lines on that no. But no. Yeah, I did that a couple of times, so that was cool, a little place. But you could buy posters from these places as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. posters would drag you in. I remember this again. There's a little news agent near me that I walked past, and I always remember seeing the poster for Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and with Kirsty Swanson in her yoga pants and Luke Perry, and I kept walking around that. And one day I did end up renting it, or did I see it on TV? I think I did, but it was always in my mind. I also remember seeing the poster for what must be the most pointless sequel of all time. I've never seen this film. I just remember the poster appearing in the shop window. Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of it? I don't know if anyone's seen it, but it just sounds like such a pointless sequel.
I probably watched it a million times on HBO when I was a kid.
Bernie's back. He's still dead.
I guess I can't even remember if it was a different one or they just keep on using the body, but yeah, that's a weird one. But the poster thing, that was a popular thing too. We used to give out a lot of posters, and I remember going, you could get I don't know, you know what it is I just like to be in an environment where I'm with other people who love what I love. And being in a video store was so much fun to actually be physically in the same space. Sometimes I still go up to now it's kind of frustrating because, like I said, the video store up my street mainly serves coffee. And every time I try to talk to somebody about movie, like I go in there and I just start working. Like the guy has said this to me. He's like, you don't need to work because I'll go up to every person and ask them what they're interested. What are you looking for? Because I just love talking about it. But yeah, I hope that there is some sort of thing like that where maybe it just takes one person to open up I guess in London, the biggest city, right? Like, hey, somebody opened a video store and we're going there, and then it becomes kind of like a cool thing. They put a cafe in there. Oh, you can talk on your phone while you're there, whatever gets people in a store now. But I like these places, and I hope they continue to exist. And I think they will continue to exist in America. I think this nonprofit way and kind of making it almost educational and for like film preservation is probably where it's going to go. And I think libraries are picking up the slack. I know my library here in Portland is fantastic. Well, I live in a little town right adjacent to Portland called Milwaukee, and the library is great. And when they don't have something and I request it, they go and buy it. And they have new movies all the time. They have a good selection. But it's good to walk in there and talk to people about stuff too, It's that kind of that conversation, which I guess we continue by doing podcasts, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Twitter and Facebook and social media. But there's still something I like about that aspect of being able to, really connect and talk with people, and be in the same room and, just kind of be around. It's like the boxes too. I like looking at the boxes and the art and the. Yeah,
that's what I
just,
like. I miss the disappointment of walking into Blockbusters and not finding the film that you wanted and then trying to settle for something else.
Yeah, or where they'd have like 500 copies of it, and it's you think that it's there because the box is there, but really like, how they used to like put like a box in front of it, or like the box would be there, but then the video behind it in the Blockbuster box would be gone.
Yeah.
So see all of them on the wall, and you'd think, oh, they got 100 of them, and then as you got closer, you'd start to realize that they weren't like farther out enough, so the other box wasn't behind it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, they don't have anything. It's all gone.
Okay, right. I'm going to ask maybe a blasphemous question about video rentals as well. This is purely VHS. Did you guys rewind your tapes?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, always wind it back. Always wind it back to the beginning, so the next person gets the benefit.
Yeah, I would give it a shot. And we did. I know at Blockbuster and at World of Video, we had like 4 of those machines where you just pop it in and it automatically rewound it.
Oh, okay.
They're like a little bit bigger than the tape itself, and you just pop it in, and it you just sit there and you'd hear it all through the day. You'd hear that whine of the tape pulling. But hey, listen, guys. Unfortunately, I don't mean to cut us too short. We've been going for a while, but I do have to step away.
No, that's fine, man. I think we're going to wrap it up there anyway. So, is there anything that you want to plug before you do step away?
Oh, just, hey, if you liked what I was talking about, check us out at dvrpodcast.com. And we're very similar. We're a bunch of friends, and we talk about all different things. We talk about TV. We have a Patreon, too. You can check out patreon.com/DVR. And Heath and I are going to be doing more film lists where we just talk TV, film, all that kind of stuff. And let's see, we did Westworld Theory Cast and Podcast Winterfell. Check out Podcast Winterfell. We're doing that new series where we choose one episode from each season and look at it purely from a production and through director's eyes. That's why we call it the director's series. So no book stuff, no theories, none of that. We just talk about, hey, they started off in a close-up. Why? This is shot like this. They needed extras in this scene. Where did they shoot this? So it was fun to talk about the pilot or the first episode of Game of Thrones, because some people, I think a lot of fans know that they shot a complete first pilot that they scrapped.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
So I went into detail about that on the show as well. But that's about it. Thank you for having me on. I'd love to come on again if there's any other topics that you want to talk. I mean, I thought this was really fun. I appreciate it, gentlemen. Thank you.
No, I appreciate you coming on and making some time for us as well. So thank you very much for doing that. I know.
Yes, it's been really interesting.
Yeah, it's been good. No, thank you very much. If you want to step away now, you're more than welcome to. And myself and Martin will just wrap up the rest of it. You're more than welcome just to jump off now if you want.
Yes, I will, because my son of 6 years old has been doing very good for almost 2 hours, not making any noise. And that both makes me happy and scares me to death. So I must see what he's doing.
Okay, man. No worries. Thank you very much.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Ta-da.
Cheers. Bye. Well, I've got one more bit of trivia for you, Elton. This is something I heard the other day. Back in 2000, Blockbusters had the opportunity to buy Netflix.
Okay. How much?
And they... apparently $50 million.
Oh dear.
So you put that up there with possibly one of the worst decisions of all time, I think.
Well, that's where they went wrong, isn't it? They didn't adapt to the new future of just downloading and streaming, really, did they? You imagine if they had, there would be a massive competitor or the owner of Netflix.
Well, no, they obviously didn't see the future. I think when Netflix started out, it was basically, it was like a mail order rental system, a lot like
wasn't it Love Film?
Get Netflix. I think it was like Love Film. I think Netflix was initially like that. It was a website you could pick your rental and you sent it out. I mean, I actually, something I forgot to mention. I did that myself for a while. I was with Love Film, and for a good few years they were posting DVDs out and posting it back because it was quite easier for me. So perhaps that's where the missing link is. Between the physical media, the video stores, and the streaming. Really, you get to just things popping back and forth to you through the post.
I never did the postal thing. I feel that I would receive something, I wouldn't be reliable enough to post it back. So I never took that up. And it was only this year, this Christmas just gone, that I actually got Netflix. And I don't expect anything to stay on there. I don't feel as if I own anything on there. I hope that there's certain stuff that I want to stay on there, but I don't know. Maybe it's just like, as Axel said, like a cultural thing. Maybe we're just a bit too lazy. Maybe that's what it is.
I think that's probably what it is. You know, it was made easier for us. You know, we never had to drag ourselves out and get a movie. You know, we could get it come to us. You know, first of all, pop through your door, and finally, just nap on your TV. Just switch it on, click, click, click. There you go. There's a video movie.
It's just as easy to watch a movie on Netflix as it is to download or watch something on pirate. So why not just go for the easy option? It's like downloading music as well years ago.
Yeah.
It's just too easy to buy it on iTunes or the Google store.
Or even, well, we're talking on YouTube now, aren't we? So look at everything that's on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, there's quite a few different movies and things released on there. You know, from all over the years.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, perhaps that's had its part to play as well. Just the total accessibility of this content.
Yeah, absolutely right. So, is there anything else you'd like to bring up, or should we wrap that whole thing up there?
No, I don't think there's anything I remember. Well, there's a couple of things I always remember. It's a bit of a downer that I had Blockbuster call me up one day, and they asked me when I was going to return Men in Black, which rang a few bells, and I thought, Men in Black, because I saw Men in Black in the cinema, so I wouldn't have rented it from Blockbusters. Well, long story short, we ended up discovering that our house had been burgled.
You're joking.
Yeah, basically because I went to check my Blockbuster card was. That was gone. So we searched the house, and we found that somebody had been in and burgled us while we were away on holiday.
Oh no! Was it a case of just little things gone, or was it like the big TV had gone as well?
No, well, that we would have noticed, but there was a few things that had gone. I mean, there was a video, there was a camcorder that went as well. Unfortunately, there was some tapes of a family holiday that we would never get back, and a few things, and also had a bank book stolen, and some money taken out of my account.
And then they stole Men in Black.
Yes, and Men in Black as well. But well, obviously Blockbuster never charged me, at least, for that, so I think I must have explained it to them at the time.
That's why they've gone down. That's why we don't have Blockbusters anymore. It's because people have stolen Men in Black far too many times and never.
Well, that's it. We got to the bottom of it. I'll give you a slightly more uplifting one. That same one, Blockbuster in Sidcup, is went through. I don't know if you ever had a LAN party at all, where you just drag your computer over and everybody link up the computer. Well, I went to a few of these. I was never allowed to take my computer. My dad would not let it leave the house. But I ended up being elected to go to Sidcup to rent a PlayStation for one of these parties. Now, that's PlayStation singular. No numbers on the end. This is PlayStation. How much do you think it would have cost to rent a PlayStation in about 1996?
Okay, right. I went to the one in Welling to rent a PlayStation and a game, and they wanted the price of the PlayStation, at least. I think it was well over £100 just to rent it.
I remember it being about 200 quid.
Yeah. You got some of that back, though, didn't you?
I think so. I think you might have got that back, deposit back. But I went in and was. I don't know what we expected. You know, we were all teenagers at the time, so I just kind of like, no, sorry, we're not renting that. I don't know what we expected it was going to be, but I always remember. Then furiously just going to the phone box across the street. No mobiles in them days. Go to the phone box, ringing my mates, say, nope, sorry, I can't have it. I'll get back on the bus. All right. Pick up a pizza menu. So I went in the Pizza Hut next door, and I always remember turning around, and there was a chap I knew from school in there, just arms over the table with his fiancée at the time. Just both of them turned around, looking. Oh, hello. I recognise you. I've got a pizza leaflet. So
yeah,
it's slightly odd one to end on.
I remember trying to rent a PlayStation out, and I walked in there, asked about the prices. They said well over £100 because it was the deposit just in case you didn't come back with the PlayStation.
Yeah.
Because they weren't I don't think there were that many in the shops, as I recall, or there were like 300-400 quid, and it was just too easy just to walk off with one, and so I walked in there, spun on my heels, and walked directly out as well. There was just no way I could afford that. Yeah. Okay, right. Well, what we'll do, I think we'll actually wrap it up there. I think Axel was a good sport. It's like midday over in America. So what
Yeah, did he say it's about 1 o'clock or something? Well, that was when it was 9 o'clock, so it must be
it's like
for
3 o'clock now. So it's
3 o'clock there.
people back from school, I'd imagine, as well.
Mm.
Anyway, so thank you to Axel for joining us. Thank you, Martin, for joining us. Have you got anything that you'd
It's
like to
been a
plug?
pleasure. No, nothing at the moment. I've got nothing on.
No blogs.
No, I'm thinking about that actually, because I did used to write for Geek Planet Online, and since then I've been wanting to get back writing stuff again. So I've been thinking about starting a blog or something like that, just for various bits and pieces. But that's been about for a good few months, and I haven't done that yet, which is something I need to look into.
Okay, no worries. Well, you can catch myself and 3 other guys on the Black Dog Podcast. That is over at blackdogpodcast.com. It's also on iTunes and all the other stores that you can download your podcasts from. Please catch me on the Grand Prix Podcast as well. I think we might be recording one this weekend, and then the racing is back next weekend. That's with Mr. Andy Plastides. And there's lots of other stuff on RogueTwoMedia.com as well. And there's a few ideas coming along very, very soon as well. I'm waiting for equipment to turn up. I'm waiting for a little bit of time and some emails to be sent as well. So good stuff is on the horizon. So if you want any news about that, then pop over to the website and I'll put all the details up there. So until next time, thank you once again to Axel, who's now gone, and to Martin for joining me. So thank you very much, mate.
Thank you, sir.
Much appreciated. And just leaves me to say, please leave quietly. This is a residential area. There we go. Right. YouTubers, thank you very much for sticking with us. That was excellent. That was really good, actually. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Thank you very much.
That was some good stuff. Yeah.
Thank you very much, mate.
Well, so if you ever fancy talking about it, perhaps we'll have to have a talk about Lost at some point.
Yeah, I don't mind.
'Cause I used to be into Lost, so don't mind talking about Lost.
Yeah, I'm sure Axel might be up for that. Maybe even Scott.
Mm.
Could get Scott to do that as well. Oh my word! It'd be like all the old dudes getting back together. Yeah. No, thank you very much, mate. What I'm going to do,
Get the gang back together.
Yeah, I'm going to turn off the YouTube now. So, thank you very much, guys. Oh, bloody hell, I'm getting lots of information. Right, how do you stop this thing? I've forgotten how to stop it. Is it that button? No. Is it that button? No. Don't know how to stop it. Anyway, right. Well, Martin, what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut you off, if that's all right, and I'm going to jump off of YouTube. So thank you to everyone who's joined us. Thank you for sticking with us. I think it's been quite a long recording, so I might cut this down.
We've just gone over 2 hours. I can see 2:03 is what the Skype thing says.
Oh, that's not too bad then. That's not too bad. So that's all right. So yeah, thank you to everyone that's stuck with us. And hopefully we'll get some more Shonky Lab out very, very soon. Hopefully there won't be much of a gap next time round. So apologies for that, but sometimes you need a break, and sometimes life gets in the way as well. And sheds need to be built as well. So everyone knows about the sheds now. So
is that coming soon? We're going to get the special on sheds.
I have thought about it. I don't know. I don't know. I could talk about it for hours. I don't know if anyone else wants to listen to me talking about a shed for hours. I doubt it very much. Anyway, right, I'm going to cut you off, mate. I'll speak to you later. Thank you very much.
Okay. Cheers, Elton.
Cheers, mate. Ta-da.
Bye.
I'm going to turn you off as well. How do I do that? I think... There we go.